And when it comes to preventing future acts of violence in our schools, let me say this: more guns are not the answer.
And there you saw Governor Dan Malloy from the state of Connecticut, obviously. One of many officials very invested in this issue, delivering his State of the State address today. We'll talk about what happened in Albany a little bit later, but I want to bring in our panel right now. Michael Balboni, former New York State Senator and Assemblyman. He's also the former Deputy Secretary for Public Safety for the state of New York. Got Dominic Carter with us, as always, political journalist and author, and Richard Brodsky, former New York Assemblyman, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU, definitely into the hell known as media now, complete with both feet. Yes.
Make it go away.
I was good. I kept my mouth shut with him, but...
You know, in public life, you get into very controversial discussions and arguments, and you learn after a while, but not, for me it took longer than it took for Mike, that there are some people you just don't argue with. This guy, the guy on Piers Morgan, was a foaming at the mouth maniac. This guy was calm and sweet, but with the same point of view. King George, Nazis, Hitler, we're talking about licensing guns. We're not talking about revolutionary stuff. There is a sector of the American community which is entitled to its views. They ought to actually be listened to, no matter how whacked out they are, as the guy on Piers Morgan was. But in the end, there's no debating, there's no discussion. A majority, a social majority of this country is going to have to make a decision, and if that fraction of America wants to retreat to the bunker, we'll deal with that in due course.
You know, Michael, though, you hear him, and he said, you can't even paraphrase what he said, but, and I've had my fights with him, and I tried this time, I said, you know, let him talk. I want everybody to hear just how far apart we are, but more guns, more bazookas for everyone, including people on terror watch lists, the insane and felons, okay? And arm the lunch lady, etc. But he's not a fringe, I mean, he's a fringe guy, but he's got more than 300,000 folks that are lined up with him. And there's a lot of groups like his out there, not just the NRA. I was doing the calculations in my head in Washington right now. If you're a Republican and you're worried about primaries, if you take any action to go to the middle, whether it's for a database, forget about, you know, something really out there, but just even stuff like databases or extended ammo clips, you're going to get primaried, aren't you?
Well, you know, in 2004, we faced this exact issue in the New York State Senate. I was in the majority in the Republicans, and we sat down, and a senator who's still there now, Senator Chuck Fuschillo, we had this debate that said we can't exist out here. We can't let at the time there was a federal assault weapons ban. We can't not be a part of this. It's already law on the federal level. Tremendous pressure from the NRA, tremendous pressure from, frankly, a lot of our upstate colleagues that have a different view of the culture of guns. And we said we had to come to the mill and do that. Now, we didn't get primaried, but in this day and age, with the Tea Party the way they are, I mean, just take a look at the last election. You could point to 3 seats that were changed because of the gay marriage vote. So, you know, these primaries are real, and they feel empowered.
And that's New York.
And
I
that's
mean,
just right,
imagine
exactly.
You go out, Dominic, in the red states here, and somebody says, and remember, some of the lawmakers, including a few Blue Dog Democrats, who said after Aurora, something's got to change, enough. I wonder today where are they, because they're doing the math too, and I just don't want people to dismiss this guy as a kook, because there's a lot of people who feel you give an inch on this.
I'm sorry, Richard. He has to be dismissed.
He's a complete lunatic.
He has to. I'm sorry. I can't sugarcoat this. I can't do a Brodsky and be nice about this.
He is nice.
Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
It is scary what he had to say. The general was wrong. Everybody's wrong.
The general was an idiot.
The general was an idiot. That's right. Everybody's wrong except for his point of view. Reasonable people can disagree. But in the body politic, lawmakers can come to an agreement.
Well, you know where it gets even more scary? There are people who listen to him saying the rule of law. If you don't like the law, don't listen to it. And you're talking about people with assault weapons that are getting that message here, okay?
It is possible to do some things and not take people's guns.
Well, let me get to that, because here's my question to you, Richard, because it seems to me there's an immediate decision, because you only have a certain amount of time before the issue gets pushed. And you're tighter with some of the progressive groups here. If they take an incremental approach, like Biden seems to suggest, they want to take some things where they can actually get enacted. Will it be opportunity missed, or is that just a practical play? It can't be as overarching as some on the left want it to be. I'm talking reform.
You know, don't make this left and right, because if you do that, you define the right as inherently wacky. And I think there are lots of reasonable people out there on the right, moderate folks, who think we got to figure out a way to stop insane people from mass murdering Americans. Okay, and you don't have to be a lefty to
that will
want
have
that.
to include a
Wait a minute.
database
As to
of some
whether
kind.
or not you do this incrementally or with something more dramatic, that will unfold through the political process. But what has to happen is the poor remnants of moderate, progressive, thoughtful Republicans, and you're looking at the political corpse of one right here. Nice man that he is.
You like that smack and then the right?
He's in the best of ways.
that as long as the Republican Party is the captive of its fringe, it's going to be very tough.
Put it in human terms, because you went to Newtown today, didn't you?
Yeah, well, no, I gave a presentation to 70 school officials on Long Island who are very, very worried about this. And I think the thing that shocked all of us is that this is the Northeast. We have very robust gun laws. It's not supposed to happen here. It's never supposed to happen here. It happened here. And but they woke up the next day and they realized that random violence can happen anywhere. They are vulnerable. They didn't have that beforehand. After Columbine, or all these different strategies were developed. So now you have these folks in the room saying, now what do we do? And what do we do that's scalable, sustainable? And how do we attract folks to the teaching profession that will now have to go into all these other issues? Like, how do you determine someone's, perhaps a kid is at home and is unbalanced? You know, how do we deal with that issue? And what do you deal with HIPAA privacy requirements? All the different things, and we both know Richard has been an advocate for the funding for mental health for a very long time in his career. How do we address that issue? Because it's always been the stepchild of our medical profession, of our healthcare issues. We don't really address.
Assume you could identify people with medical reasons to be concerned about gun ownership. What do you do?
Absolutely.
And in the end, everybody's right, everybody's wrong. As long
Larry
as
wasn't right.
well, you know, if insofar as he says things like, you can do what you like about making gun ownership tougher, but eventually, in a society where violence is almost an approved method of expression, there are going to be people who find their way around it, and it's going to happen again. There is an American culture of guns that has, that's a factor here. It's not, look, I have relatives in Montana who have lots of guns, hunt, shoot all the time. They're not crazy, and they're used responsibly. They're part of a lifestyle. I get it. But crazy people are getting powerful weapons and killing children, and we can't do anything.
And the idea of more guns?
It's up to his party.
We're going to jump to a break here. When we come back, we're going to take you to Albany. The governor delivered a State of the State address. He talked about guns today. In fact, he said he wanted New York to have the toughest assault weapon ban in the entire country. We're going to talk about that and much more after this. Stay with us.
No one hunts with an assault rifle. No one needs 10 bullets to kill a deer. And too many innocent people have died already. End the madness now. Pass safe, reasonable gun control in the state of New York.